Robert Heinlein said that when one teaches to learn, the teacher and the student went for a walk into the forest of knowledge when they came upon an uncertain creature called the unknown. The unknown had no discernment of who was the teacher and who was the student, but the unknown led them both down the path of endless travel where both student and teacher become united as one, and the new creature who emerged was forever walking in the thick forest. As the teacher-student walks on, the path becomes more important than the naming of things, and only the placement of a step can determine the step that might follow. The teacher-student learns that direction has nothing to do with a timed excursion. It is not a marathon or a hunt or futile exercise, but the occupation of living. And the forest is not a maze to get out of, or a perilous place to get lost. It's just simply a place to live. The teacher-student is no longer restricted to the physical places, as the forest of knowledge takes us to the abstract places where there is no fear of the physical. What do we have so far? Little Heather leaps onto the table. She is 5 years old, homeschooled, unschooled, and unusually bright. She learns by playing games. Everything turns into a game. I don't know if you're going to like this one, Heather. It's an adult view of education. There's no such thing as education, Heather says. You just learn. Just then, my vision became blurred, as I could no longer separate education from the environment of its existence. Just as gardening is not separate from sun, water, soil, temperature, season, weeds, predators, and enablers, also, there is no such isolated thing we can separate from the environment called education. Pedagogical ideas and theories must be placed in an environment to be actualized, and the environment in which the ideas are placed is analogous to the placement of seeds in the garden. Just as action verbs can point to an activity, common nouns point with a finger too small for adequacy. Heather was right in her simplicity. She has sun, water, books, tools, nutritious food, and a fertile weeded garden to play in. Albert Einstein said, "I never teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide the conditions in which they can learn." When the old man was young, he traveled through the murky, shallow waters of kindergarten, grade school, and colleges, obtaining papers and pawnshop idols on gaudy, cheap plastic pedestals. And having no altars in life, these awkward trinkets never got a rest. The peddlers of profits and the kingpins of position controlled the subjects of their own darkness with flimsy rewards. They lead the flock to the factories of mediocre returns. Heather thinks that the adults who went to typical grade schools need to go back to school again to unlearn much of what they were trained to think in schools. But there are always moments of discovery. The lights that are turned on in the schools of knowledge always called for the right traveler to flip the dimmer switch from lost in the dark to now I see it. The forest becomes illuminated when you are in the forest and have an illuminating spark adding to the light. The professor stands before the students who are ready to produce products for grades in the industrial model of the educational myth. But the professor takes the place of the student and transforms himself into the blind traveler. The student then goes with the teacher into the forest to search for illumination, using known steps to get further down into the endless path of that elusive thing called knowledge.